How do you get rid of nerves before a performance? Here are my best performance anxiety tips that will quickly get you feeling more comfortable and in control. I've taught these techniques to hundreds of musicians who've used them to turn performance from something stressful into something exciting. I'm going to share with you one fundamental understanding that will mean that you actually get less nervous in the first place, and then I'm going to give you 4 simple tips that you can use in the moment to reduce whatever amount of nerves actually do show up on the day. Now, be sure to stay until the end, because I'm going to show you how to avoid the most common mistakes that people make when they try and apply these tips. So the first thing that you need to understand is that it is perfectly okay for you to feel nervous. This doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you, and it doesn't mean that your performance is necessarily going to go badly. This is actually a perfectly normal evolutionary response to particular situations, which it was initially very helpful in. It's just coming up in performance in the modern world is not a time where we really want it. But it's fine, and you can deal with it. And once you make peace with this, then this makes everything else much easier, because one of the things that makes nerves much worse is you thinking, oh, I shouldn't be nervous, there's something wrong with me, or, oh, this is going to mess everything up. And thinking that just makes you more nervous, and you get into a bit of a downward spiral. So once you make peace with this and you accept, okay, I'd rather not be nervous, but it's fine, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me, then that is automatically going to reduce how big an amount of nerves you feel. And just to convince you, hopefully, that it doesn't have to be a bad thing and that it is perfectly normal, here's one particular situation where it happened to me in a really big way when I wasn't expecting it. So I was playing solo guitar for the first time ever, performing it at a friend's wedding, and I was fine in other performances, wasn't expecting anything like this, got there, all of a sudden, ready to play, not expecting anything, I suddenly feel my legs shaking all over the place. It's massive. My hands were shaky. I just felt like I couldn't play normally, and it was totally wrecking everything. So 2 things here. First of all, this feeling that everything was shaking everywhere. I looked down at my legs and actually I couldn't see them moving. So it was very different what was actually happening to what I felt. And in terms of did it affect my performance? Well, I wasn't hugely happy with it, but everyone came up to me afterwards and said it was great. So despite the fact that I'd felt throughout the whole thing, oh, this is a disaster because the nerves are wrecking everything, actually that wasn't the case. So hold those things in mind. Yes, it's unpleasant when nerves show up, but no, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, and no, it doesn't necessarily mean the performance is going to go worse. So once you're happy with that, then that gives you a much better, stronger starting point, because you're not going to get nerves ramping up and spiraling up to crazy levels to start with. So once we've got that initial mindset in place, what are the actual strategies that you can use in the moment to calm things down if you're a bit more nervous than you'd like? And the first one is to reframe nerves as excitement. It's really simple. It's exactly what it sounds. It's just telling yourself, I'm excited, rather than I'm nervous. And this really helps, because actually, when you think about it, the physical response to nerves and excitement, they're often really similar. I mean, you think about going on a roller coaster, the feelings that you get in your body for something that hopefully you find exciting rather than horrifying, they can be pretty similar feelings that you might get when you're nervous before a big performance. And what's different about nerves and excitement is just the emotional layer that we put on top of that. So when you tell yourself, I'm excited, this is taking physical responses that are not good or bad in themselves and putting a positive emotional spin on it rather than a negative one. And that just helps your whole feeling become positive, see it in a helpful light. And when I say tell yourself you're excited, it's exactly that. That's pretty much all you need to do. Just saying to yourself, or even out loud if there's no one around, I'm excited, will help with this. And the second thing you can do is deliberate breathing. So first of all, just paying attention to your breathing helps. Breathing a bit more slowly than you normally would is going to help calm you down. And another thing that's really going to help is making your exhale longer than your inhale. That just sends a signal to your body that things are fine and it can be calm. And the other thing to bear in mind is ideally this will be a belly breath. So a deep, not necessarily straining anything, but from your belly rather than high up in your chest. And there's a lot more we can say about this. You can do a lot of great things when you really get into breathing, but even just the basic things. So take a few reasonably deep breaths from your belly, pay attention to the fact that you're doing this, do it reasonably slowly and make the exhale longer than the inhale. That is going to just really help to calm you down pretty quickly. And the third thing that you can do is think about what the audience wants and what you want to give the audience in terms of an experience from your performance. Because what this is doing is this is taking the focus from you, what's going on, how am I going to do, am I going to be good enough, all that, to them. What do I want to do to give them a good experience? How am I hoping to connect with them, to move them? And it's amazing that you'll find once your attention goes outside, how that reduces a lot of nerves, because a lot of it is about, will I be good enough? You know, it's about your feeling of yourself, how people will judge yourself. Once you change your focus to what am I putting out there, then that reduces that kind of pressure and that constant am I good enough feeling. So that's the third thing. And the fourth thing that you can do is, related to that, and it's just to remember that people are thinking about you, people are judging you much less than you realize. And this is such a common thing that people are always judging us, that it has a name in the scientific literature. It's called the spotlight effect. So we're basically imagining that wherever we go, there's this spotlight on us. And part of this is, as I mentioned in the previous tip, because we're generally thinking, will I be good enough? What will people think of me? But of course, everyone else out there has their own thoughts about that, usually about themselves. And the really interesting thing is you'd think this might be different in a performance situation, because literally you might genuinely have a spotlight on you there. But it's amazing how much people are still in their own heads, thinking about, oh, what am I going to do later today? Can I deal with this thing that's been worrying me, as well as paying attention to you? So although it feels like all attention is on you all the time and everyone is judging every tiny thing you do, that's not actually true in reality. So just bear that in mind, and that will help take the pressure off as well. Okay, let's quickly summarize all that before I get into the bonus section on how to avoid the common mistakes people make when applying these ideas. So first, it's about the mindset that nerves are okay. There's nothing wrong with you, and they're not necessarily going to have a negative impact on your performance. So if you start with that, that gives you a really good solid base. And then the 4 things you can do in the moment were to tell yourself that you're excited rather than nervous. The second one is to breathe mindfully. The third one is to think about the audience rather than about yourself. And the fourth one is just to remember that people are thinking about you much less than you believe they are. So hopefully you feel pretty good right now about being able to apply these ideas. But you may well find that when it actually comes to put them into practice later, you feel a bit more doubtful about it. So here are a couple of mistakes to avoid, if you like, other things you can do to make these things really solid. And the first, particularly on the overall mindset thing, is not to go for too much too soon. It's great to think, oh, okay, it's fine for me to be nervous and it's not a problem. It's much harder usually to actually get there and hold on to that mindset. So the best way to really feel more comfortable with this over time is to build up in gradual steps. Don't just go straight for the biggest gig you can think of and say, I'm going to turn up and feel fine. Start out with just playing for a friend, and then maybe an informal gig somewhere, and see how you can fill in some steps between where you're looking to get to and no pressure at all. And each time you take this idea to a reasonably low pressure situation and you feel, yeah, okay, I can hang on with that, that gives you the ability to step up to a slightly more pressurized situation. And over time, you will be able to hold on to these mindsets even in the higher pressure ones, but don't try and jump straight there. Build up. And the second mistake you want to avoid is saying, great, I've got all these tips, I'm just going to go and apply them without practicing them, because you will get better at them doing it with practice. And you will also find that you're much more likely to remember what to do and how to do it when you've practiced it outside a performance environment. So don't make the mistake of thinking, yep, I've got all these things, I'll just turn up to the gig and apply them. Practice them just on their own, just at home to start with, and that will really help. Now, if you'd like to add even more to your arsenal, then check out my video on a simple neuroscience tip to calm performance nerves next. And if you'd like the special practice and performance tips that I only share with subscribers, then head on over to playinthezone.com and sign up for the emails. They're free. I've been Morley-Fletcher. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.